Hey everyone, welcome back to the ATD Movie Channel. I'm Tony, and today I'll be reviewing First Man, the story of Neil Armstrong, the first man to step foot on the moon. Let's jump right into it. I had the opportunity to watch First Man a few days ago, and it's the film directed by Damien Chazelle. You probably know him as the director of Whiplash, starring J.K. Simmons, and La La Land from a couple years ago, starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. Ryan Gosling returns to work with Damien Chazelle in this film, and he plays obviously Neil Armstrong. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about what I liked about the film, what I didn't like about the film. Something that cannot be ignored about this movie is the spectacle. It is a gorgeous film in a very specific way, and that to me are the flight sequences and the space sequences. They're thrilling, and they reminded me of another space movie that I loved, which is Gravity, starring Sandra Bullock. The cinematography, specifically speaking, in the space sequences is unlike anything we've seen before. The way that they convey the action and the way it pushes the story along is really kind of special. I also really enjoyed the spectacle in regards to the production design. You are definitely sucked into the 60s. You don't for a minute forget where you're at and in what era. The way that they use the props, the costumes, even the cars that they use to emulate that era are pretty cool. Down to even like the way they designed the NASA space offices. I think it's all believable, and it helps with the world building. Another aspect of the movie I really enjoyed was the acting, and it's no surprise. I mean, there's some A-list actors in this movie that have given us one good movie after another. Ryan Gosling is really coming into his own. I mean, he's probably been in the limelight now for about 10 or 15 years, and he's most likely going to get nominated for Best Actor for his portrayal in this movie. I feel like he captures the mannerisms of Neil Armstrong so well that when the film intersects with real life footage from the events of that era, you can't even tell them apart. I mean, it's like watching the same person, one and the same. I feel like the actor so beautifully and painfully conveys grief and sorrow, and it's so natural, you can't help but feel for him. And I'm gonna sound like I'm contradicting myself later in this review, but bear with me. I also felt like we were right there alongside the character and what he was going through. He's lost friends in the space program through failed missions. You see him during the space race with Russia, and the way Gosling portrays this character, you almost feel like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, because the character never forgot the magnitude of what they were doing. And I also want to take a little bit of time to talk about Claire Foy, who I love. I saw her in last year's Breathe alongside Andrew Garfield, and she's excellent in the movie. She plays Janet, the tough sort of stay-at-home wife to Neil Armstrong. She's such a nice counterbalance to the Neil Armstrong character that I felt like that was a big part of the chemistry and the dynamic to these characters was Claire Foy's performance. The movie dives into what it's like to be the wife of an astronaut, and I feel like the script did a pretty good job of showing that side of the equation instead of just focusing on the men. Foy does an incredible job of masking the fear of the character and the unknown that comes with being the wife of an astronaut. But she also represents strength, and I'm not an actor, but for the actor to show vulnerability and strength at the same time had to be a difficult thing, and Foy does it so effortlessly. I want to be as precise as possible when I'm criticizing the film, because I realize that the critics love it, but outside of the spectacle and the acting, I didn't like very much about this movie, so I want to give some examples and some references into what I didn't like. Before I do that, though, I do want to give a brief shout out to Damien Chazelle, who I think did a magnificent job with the material that he was given. There were some things outside of his control that I feel stopped this movie from being excellent, and I want to tell you what those are. The thing that I didn't like about the movie the most is the script. And I'm sort of describing these next few points with the script as the umbrella main issue of the film. The script is written by Josh Singer. He won an Oscar a couple years ago for Spotlight, and he also wrote The Post, starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. To me, the script of any movie has a fundamental task, and that's simply to tell a story and build characters. And does the script do that here? Yeah, absolutely it does. It tells very specifically Neil Armstrong's story and the events leading up to the moon landing. But the journey and its depiction is flawed. And I'm going to talk about the movie's narrow focus because it felt like the movie was so laser focused on what Neil Armstrong was going through internally, I didn't feel like there was enough else to keep us engaged. Now, without spoiling anything, we witness a very dramatic event at the beginning of the film, and this particular event scars Neil Armstrong, and the way that he deals with this event is an important part of the movie. But the movie focuses so much on the way that Armstrong is handling this event, and it doesn't really show you anything else in regards to the character except for how he's dealing. And he doesn't change. The character doesn't evolve. There's very little arc to this character. So for 2 hours and 20 minutes, they tell you over and over how much pain this character is in. And again, I'm not spoiling why he's in pain. I can't stress this enough. Neil Armstrong in this movie is the most boring American hero that we've ever seen depicted in a film. And I can appreciate if Armstrong is depicted as close to the way he is in real life. I can appreciate that. That doesn't make him an interesting movie character. That's what documentaries are for. If you just want to document the people involved in a series of events, make a documentary. But for a blockbuster, so to speak, theatrical film, I just didn't feel like they depicted Neil Armstrong as an interesting character whatsoever. In fact, after I left the theater, I was sharing with my movie friends that this movie ruined an American hero to me and in my perception of the person. The script also has very major issues with the way it handles supporting characters. They're poorly written and they're played by some incredible actors. And I just want to read the list to you. The movie co-stars Pablo Schreiber, Jason Clarke, Kyle Chandler, and Corey Stoll. And they play Jim Lovell from the Apollo 13 mission, Ed White, Deke Slayton, and Buzz Aldrin, respectively. These are amazing characters. I keep saying characters. These are amazing men in our American history. And whatever screen time they could have given them to develop the characters and give them an arc is completely traded in for more focus on the Armstrong character. It just didn't seem like to me like they cared about anything except what Armstrong was going through internally. And to me, that's an important part of the man, what he's going through, but that can't be everything. And when they do try to tackle a different side of the character, a more playful side of the character, it felt really awkward. You can't just take 2 minutes out of a 2 hour and 20 minute film to show a different side of the character and have it flesh him out and show all aspects of the character. It just doesn't work. If only 2 minutes of the film are dedicated to showing the fun, loving side of Armstrong, it doesn't feel real to me. It feels like he, as a character, was putting on a front and acting in a position that he just wasn't comfortable in. I mentioned the cinematography and the spectacle at the beginning of the review as something I really liked. Let me tell you something. Overall, the cinematography in this movie is, to me, personally, awful. The entire movie, or most of it, sticks the camera right in the actor's face. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but there are several sequences where the camera is pointing up Ryan Gosling's nostrils, and you see it, like it just sucks you out of the movie. And during otherwise spectacular action sequences, they opt to keep the camera tight and on the actors' faces instead of pulling it out and giving the audience an idea of the sheer size and scope of the events taking place. And I couldn't even appreciate the vastness of space because the camera stuck right on Ryan Gosling most of the time. And I know a lot of people love the way Ryan Gosling looks, but to have the camera focused between the eyebrows and his mouth for pretty long shots, it didn't work for me. You're dealing with the vastness of space. Give me some idea what that means in relation to the size of the astronauts and their spaceship. And then one of the other things that I wrote that I had a problem with in regards to the script are the stakes involved. I felt like other movies have done it better. They have portrayed exactly what the stakes were in that period of our history. Hidden Figures and Apollo 13 come to mind. They did a better job to me of explaining just how important what these people were doing, specifically Hidden Figures, because that movie takes place so much on the ground, and Apollo 13 takes place so much up in space, that I feel like those two movies are good examples of where the entire world was watching. And I understand that the script is laser focused on what Armstrong is going through internally, but the entire world was watching what was going on. They weren't focused on Armstrong. They were focused on the space race as a whole. I'm going to bring this review to an end and tell you in conclusion, I understand the critics' love for this movie. I feel like my movie review vocabulary has gotten better over the years, and I know what critics look for, and I feel like this movie checks so many different boxes in regards to what people are looking for in a good movie. Now, that doesn't mean I have to agree with it. It's like when I watched Venom. I was watching a movie that I knew a lot of people weren't going to like, but there were things about it that I enjoyed. Same here. I was watching a movie that I knew a lot of people were going to like that I just simply didn't. I can't recommend this movie. I feel like the spectacle is there, but the characters weren't developed and the story is not broad enough for me to really recommend this movie to anybody. So I'm gonna stop right there before I get attacked by everybody. I've been in several arguments about this movie over the last few days. So, have you seen First Man? And what about some of the other Damien Chazelle movies like Whiplash and La La Land? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be notified of content uploaded regularly. You can find other movie reviews on the channel as well. Thanks for watching my review of First Man. I'll talk to you soon.